As an expert in nuclear physics, I have long hypothesized that there are an infinite number of parallel dimensions, each containing its own planet Earth. Each Earth occupies the same location in space, but vibrates at a different speed.
Throughout the history of DC Comics publication, there have been an astounding amount of alternate timelines, parallel worlds, extra-dimensional dimensions. There was the confusing fusing of multiple Earths to prevent confusion in the late 80s Crisis on Infinite Earths. There was the temporary real-world merging of Milestone Media's Dakotaverse with DC's universe in 2008. There was Zero Hour, the concept of hypertime. There was Convergence, Multiversity, DC versus Marvel, the Antimatter Universe, blah 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 blah. It's all very complicated. Of course, there were also the Elseworlds titles that started in 1989, on which the new CW crossover special is based, sort of. The concept of a multiverse has never been shied away from in science fiction. Like the episode Parallels of Star Trek The Next Generation, where stuff on the Enterprise keeps seemingly changing on Worf and it keeps screwing him up before he realizes he's swapping in and out of various parallel universes, and at the end there's like hundreds of thousands of Enterprises all at once, and this one explodes, and oh, right, I'm supposed to be talking about DC, not Star Trek. The multiverse theory is one that has been hypothesized and supported by various reputable scientists over the last few centuries, and essentially describes the idea that our own universe cannot possibly be the only fathomable outcome in the sea of infinite possibility that is time and space. Just because I'm a YouTuber in this universe doesn't mean there's not an alternate reality where I'm a car salesman, or a beet farmer, or Batman. Okay, I really hope that last one's real. And in the world presented to us via the DC animated universe continuity, there have been so many instances of alternate realities that we may even miss a few on this list, and you can angrily tell us so in the comments, or nicely tell us so. You get to choose who you are. Some of them are purposeful inclusions of parallel worlds, others are, well, let's just say they've become alternate DCAUs over time. Confused? Good, let's dive in. Superfriends. Okay, not those Superfriends. That was also the name of the story featured in the Batman Adventures number 25 in fall 1994. The Batman Adventures was a tie-in comic book companion to Batman the Animated Series, and existed during a time in which the Batman cartoon's producers had little to no intent of expanding lonely Gotham City into the animated universe it would become. What's more, the creative team on the Adventures comic didn't have a lot of back and forth with the animated series showrunners in terms of off-limit characters or plot lines, and so this issue of the comic has become somewhat infamous. Superfriends features the first DCAU appearance of Superman, and boy is he scrumptious. This came out, of course, during a time when Superman had recently come back from the dead in the mainstream comics and sported a mane of luxurious flowing super hair. And while several other aspects of this Batman Adventures issue, like the pre-World's Finest meeting of Batman and Superman, or the lion-like appearance of Lex Luthor, throw it out of proper DCAU canon, it can be considered a bit of an Elseworlds piece itself, a continuity in which this is when the Dark Knight and Man of Steel first teamed up to fight, I don't remember, robots or something. It's also interesting to note that a Superman of this visual nature appeared among many a page of Superman and Batman magazine, a short-lived title aimed at young readers that ran from 1993 to 95. This magazine also featured several stories by the Batman Adventures alums, seemingly set in the world of Batman the Animated Series, so they're definitely worth checking out. They're like little hidden gems of the DCAU. I mean, not hidden on purpose, but who reads magazines? Except highlights. Highlights was dope. Adventures in the DC Universe. In early 1997, DC began publishing a comic series titled Adventures in the DC Universe, which more or less stuck to the continuity of the already in progress Superman the Animated Series and focused on bringing together dozens of characters in a self-proclaimed different look at the world's greatest superheroes. These incarnations were often represented in their animated forms, but the continuity between this series and the cartoons quickly became super muddied and fell off the rails with the animated introductions of characters like Kyle Rayner or Aquaman, who already had doppelgangers in Adventures in the DCU. The comic essentially became an alternate look at what the DCAU Justice League might have been had it formed years earlier, or in a different reality altogether, which, with the inclusion of Batman updating costumes to reflect TNBA, may have been a continuation of the Batman Adventures and Superman and Batman magazine in a sort of unintentional shared continuity. The series did eventually partake in a 3-title-wide crossover event with Batman Adventures and Superman Adventures during their 1997 annuals, which just makes it all the more confusing. Stay tuned for the Will It Canon episode, I guess. Brave New Metropolis. The earliest on-screen example of purposeful parallel Earths in the DCAU, you know, the stuff you probably came here to see, comes to us in the form of the September 1997 Superman episode Brave New Metropolis. During a Star Labs experiment, Lois Lane is accidentally thrust into another reality, one in which she was killed by an intergang bomb, which led that world's Superman to team up with Lex Luthor and institute fascist control over Metropolis. It's a pretty heavy episode until you realize, why would the US government allow this, and why did no other confirmed to be active superheroes take Superman down? You'd think Batman or Flash or somebody would probably not be okay with this. Hawkgirl's even supposed to be active by this point. At the end of the episode, Lois returns back to the normal DCAU, but not before kissing alternate Superman? You guys realize this is the first time Lois and Superman ever kissed, right? And OG Supes is just standing there like, yeah, okay, take your time, no rush. Family reunion. In February 1999, STAS's affiliated comic book Superman Adventures released its 30th issue, Family Reunion. In a two-part story that concluded in issue 31, we saw Superman get accidentally sent into an alternate dimension via a failed Star Labs experiment. Jesus, Hamilton, get it together. In this alternate reality, Krypton's capital city was saved by Jor-El when the planet exploded, allowing himself and Lara, as well as many others, to survive decades longer than they should have. The Kents have passed away, and Superman has been missing for over a year. Lara's also a bad guy. It's a pretty decent story, and one you may have never known existed. This comic's got some good issues, man. Give it a chance. World Without Batman. The Batman Gotham Adventures comic continued the animated series comic book companions as BTAS made the transition into the new Batman adventures. Issue number 33 in 2001, World Without Batman, featured the Phantom Stranger taking a forlorn Batman on an It's a Wonderful Life-like journey into a, well, world without Batman.
It's about how much of a difference one man can make to a city. Sound familiar?
A world where the Waynes were never murdered in Crime Alley and Bruce Wayne was allowed to grow up and live a normal life. Unfortunately, this idea spells doom for other lives like those of Dick Grayson, Harvey Dent, Tim Drake, all people Batman has helped over the years, but have instead led worse experiences due to his absence. While this all can be chalked up to some dank Phantom Stranger magic sauce, it's interesting to see what might have become of our favorite characters in an alternate Batman-less world. Shameless plug time! The Phantom Stranger appears in a feature role in the issues of our original online webcomic, Legacies of the DC Animated Universe. You can find the comic, which covers the time period between JLU and Batman Beyond, at the link in the description. Okay, I'm only gonna do one of those in this video. Legends. Back to the animated DCAU, the April 2002 first season episode of Justice League titled Legends opens with a battle of the League versus a giant Neon Genesis Evangelion robot remote piloted by Lex Luthor. After the Flash runs real fast to save his friends, his speed combined with the robot exploding causes these Leaguers to be shot into another universe, one that showcases a world seemingly stuck in the 1960s under the protection of the corny yet committed Justice Guild of America. Funny enough, these were superheroes Green Lantern John Stewart read in comic books when he was a kid, which sets him off on a mission to figure out what's really going on here. While this episode pulls pretty hard at the heartstrings, it does raise an interesting question. Do all comics that exist in the DCAU have real-life universes attached to them? Like Spider Power? Or the Joker's short-run Gotham Adventures? Is the Gotham Adventures comic not canon and actually a comic within the DCAU comics? Is the DCAU itself a comic within some other world in the multiverse? Am I a comic? Emotional baggage. In 2003, the 20th issue of the tie-in Justice League Adventures comic hit the shelves, featuring the villainous Psycho Pirate, who would later make a reappearance in the final season of JLU. By merely the second page of emotional baggage, we're told of the Psycho Pirate's fruitless attempts to escape his own personal crisis through various alternate realities. We're shown that these realities are home to various incarnations of superheroes we know and love, including one comprised of a DCAU-style Kingdom Come, another apparently the real Justice Society, unlike their Justice Guild counterparts, and finally what appears to be the Brave New Metropolis world. And oh look! There are other superheroes! Now, I guess he's since formed his own Justice League with Cat Matui, Batgirl, and Firestorm. And lastly, the proper DCAU, or at least the one featured in Justice League Adventures, to be continued. But then we get the next caption explaining that all these alternate realities are existing only within the recesses of his own delusional subconscious, which would lead us to believe the Psycho Pirate is truly psycho here, and these aren't real parallel Earths. However, the mainstream DC Psycho Pirate has traditionally been linked to these these sorts of hypocrisies, able to view other dimensions and timelines more clearly or readily than the average Joe. So perhaps these truly are alternate DCAUs presented to us, but we may never know for sure. Good luck sleeping tonight. A Better World. We've talked about this one in a lot of other videos, and you're probably the most familiar with it. The Justice League Season 2 episode arc, A Better World, which first aired in November 2003, starts us off smack dab in the middle of the parallel Earth of the Justice Lords, essentially the Justice League with a skewed sense of morality. In this reality, Superman killed the President of the United States, who just happened to be Lex Luthor, and the Lords took totalitarian control of the world's governments. There are a lot of other points of interest about this universe, but I'll just let past Vanishing Point Maddie take the reins on that. Click here now! Shadow of Sin Tzu. From 2003 to 2004, DC Comics published a weekly webcomic series that was intended to be a follow-up to the popular DCAU video game Batman Rise of Sin Tzu. Strangely though, the webcomic did not follow the continuity set out by the game, which itself was intended to fall in line with animated series canon. Instead, Shadow of Sin Tzu took some liberties with various characters' appearances and randomly decided to toss the Birds of Prey into the mix, with appearances by Cassandra Cain Batgirl, a pre-JLU Huntress, and most notably Barbara Gordon as Oracle. This comic quickly became a pseudo-DCAU of its own and can be considered yet another probably unintentional alternate universe. You guys, it's so easy to adhere to DCAU canon. We do it all the time in our original online webcomic Legacies of the DCM. No, I promised. I can't, I won't, but you should check out the link in the description. Night of the Batmen! Exclamation mark. When JLU ended in 2006, the DC animated universe was effectively over. At least until 2017, am I right? But it had such a lasting impact on the greater DC Comics franchise that other popular presentations of these characters would have been stupid not to include references or tributes to the DCAU over the years. But one such presentation went above and beyond in that it actually included physical appearances by the TNBA and Batman Beyond versions of Batman. Are cartoons physical? No, James, they're not. Remember your therapy. This shot comes from the April 2011 episode of Batman the Brave and the Bold, titled Night of the Batmen. In the final moments of the episode, a splash of numerous Batmanses explode onto the screen. Now you might say this is just a fun little nod to the DCAU, but I mean, at the end of the episode, a wormhole opens up to different dimensions and timelines, so it's easy to say these guys are actually there. As for the rest of the Bat peeps in this shot, we've got 6 characters already from this Brave and the Bold universe. Batman, 4 other superheroes dressed up as Batman, and another of whom is just from a different planet and voiced by Kevin Conroy, but also the 2 DCAU versions, and ones from The Batman, The Adam West Show, the Batman and Robin movie, The Dark Knight Returns, the Scooby-Doo crossovers, the Superfriends cartoon, and Bat manga, as well as Captain Leatherwing of Earth 494, Bat Vampire of Earth 1191, Solar Batman of unknown origin, Batman of 800,000 AD, Nighthawk of Earth 18, and finally Bat Hulk, a lot of which have also appeared in various comic books over the decades. You know, actually, I don't know which one of these is Super Friends and which one is Scooby-Doo, and truthfully, neither does the guy who directed the episode. So effectively, if the DCAU versions of the character are able to travel to the Brave and the Bold universe, and so are all these others, it reasons to suspect that all of these Bat Bros universe are on the same multiverse family tree as the DCAUs. And if that's the case, then we can also include this Brave and the Bold multiverse's Earth 161, a zombie planet, an inside joke at both Marvel zombies and their main universe Earth 616, Earth 5501, a world in which Abraham Lincoln was never assassinated, the Earth of Batboy and Rubin, though this may be fictional inside the fictional multiverse, and Earth 23, where Bruce Wayne is Owlman. Though to be crystal clear, this is a different Owlman than the one from the Crime Syndicate in Justice League Crisis on Two Earths, which also might be a parallel Earth to the DCAU. This also brings into question the possibility of a connected Scooby-Doo multiverse, since, I mean, let's be real here, pretty much every single Scooby-Doo cartoon, comic, or movie franchise doesn't take place in the same continuity. Ruh-roh. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This one's pretty tubular, if I do say so myself. Hey, and pizza or something. In 2016, a 6-issue comic series was published by IDW and DC, Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Adventures. Continuing the traditional adventures titling and hopping off the success of the recent Batman TMNT crossover comic, artist John Somariva and writer Matthew Manning, we've talked to him like a few times, crafted a beautiful little story that crossed over the Batman the Animated Series world with that of the 2012 CGI TMNT Nickelodeon cartoon. Now, on a surface level, that sounds like ridiculous nonsense. And it is, but it was pretty great and captured the essence of both universes remarkably well. And no, I'm not just saying that because we've talked to Matthew Manning like a few times. In the comic, Batman, Robin, and Batgirl wind up in the Turtles world and vice versa by way of Krang portals. Krang are villains from TMNT. I totally understand if you don't know that. I still don't really know that for sure. I'm mostly going off memory of this comic alone. Much like the Night of the Batman branching multiverse, if the 2012 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles show is in the DCAU multiverse, then so must be the 1987 Turtles universe and the Mirage Comics Turtles universe, both of which have also crossed over with the 2003 animated series. So the tree just keeps getting bigger and bigger. We got another Tommy Westfall snow globe growing here. By the way, did you know Static Shock creator Dwayne McDuffie came up with that? The dude was full of great ideas. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you should look it up because holy World's Funnest. The last three I want to cover are perhaps the most vast, which is why I broke order and saved them for the end. I'll begin with the 2000 one-shot comic World's Funnest. Written by Evan Dorkin, who also lent his writing skills to a handful of STAS projects, this comic follows Mr. Mxyzptlk and Batmite as they fight each other, hopping from reality to reality and destroying each one in turn. By the end, everything is restored to normal, but it's a great little comic that showcases a ton of different art styles and versions of DC's characters as the two imps clash. Among these, of course, is briefly the DCAU, drawn by Bruce Timm himself and cheekily presented in storyboard format a la an animated series' pre-production. And it shows up again at the end in the form of a tiny peek at Batman Beyond. Of note, in the more recent Action Comics number 975, Mr. Mxyzptlk explains that he's always the same Mixie no matter the interpretation, which explains how and why he and Batmite automatically adapt to the art style of each given universe. But it also gives credence to the idea that every one of these presented universes are also now part of the ever-expanding tapestry that is the DCAU multiverse, including the following: Earth 1, aka the Silver Age, Earth 3, home to 1964's Crime Syndicate of America and now our third version of Owlman, Earth X, in which FDR's passing led to Nazi Germany developing atomic weaponry, and no, it's not the same Earth X as in the Arrowverse. That would be a cool crossover. Earth S, the original Fawcett Comics home of the Marvel family, or Captain Marvel family, Shazam family, Shazamily. Earth C, featuring Captain Carrot and his amazing zoo crew. New Earth, the official designation of the main DC Comics universe post-Crisis on Infinite Earths and pre-New 52. Earth 86, home of the Atomic Knights. Earth 4, the original home of the Charlton Action Heroes. Earth AD, the original home of Commandy, I don't know. Earth 96, Kingdom Come. Earth 97, Tangent Comics. The dystopian future of Tailgunner Joe. Earth Prime, aka the real Earth, or designate Earth 33 on the multiverse map. A bunch of others we already talked about. And Earth 18 of Marvel Comics, which opens this thing up to the Marvel multiverse a bit and was inspiration for DC's Ultra Comics in 2014's Multiversity, which is from Earth 33, which is supposed to be Earth Prime. Isn't this fun? That Batman Beyond short from 2014 or whatever. Hey, it's time to talk about that 2014 Batman Beyond short or whatever. It's pretty cool. It's also got a bunch of Batmans at the end. You've got the Beware the Batman CGI cartoon from 2013, The Batman again, Brave and the Bold again, Dark Knight Returns again, Michael Keaton's Burtonverse Batman, which I guess is maybe the same as George Clooney. I don't know. That universe might also include the Catwoman movie with Halle Berry. Oh god. Adam West again, and the original 1939 Batman from Detective Comics number 27. To be fair, these are all robots made by someone or something we don't know, but it's enough to assume their creator knew of these universes and or there's some kind of untold connection with that Night of the Batman episode. And did I mention the Adam West Batman universe also crossed over with the Green Hornet, TV's The Avengers, the Legion of Superheroes, and Linda Carter's Wonder Woman, who herself crossed over with the Bionic Woman, which was a spin-off of the $6 Million Man, and Batman also crossed over with the Man from U.N.C.L.E., which itself spun off the Girl from U.N.C.L.E., and he also crossed over with Archie.
I don't fit in, and I don't want to fit in.
Please, make it stop. I can't do this anymore. Okay, one more. The Looney Tunes oh come on! Just because BTAS Batman appeared on Freakazoid does not mean they're in the same multiverse. This is ridiculous. Maddie, for God's sake, I don't have enough time to read all of this.
Just read it really fast, dude. I don't know.
Fine, you've convinced me. Freakazoid features Batman and random DCAU background extras and crosses over with Animaniacs, Pinky and the Brain, and Tiny Toon Adventures, which itself has spin-offs The Plucky Duck Show and Pinky, Elmira and the Brain, which also shares continuity with Looney Tunes and its spin-offs Tasmania, Sylvester and Tweety Mysteries, Baby Looney Tunes, Duck Dodgers, Lunatics Unleashed, and the Looney Tunes show, and also Hysteria. And this combo universe has also had appearances by Superman, the Green Lantern Corps, and Adam West Batman appears as a real character, but Burton vs. Robin was fictional, and meanwhile, both Tiny Toons and Pinky and the Brain exist as fictional properties within the DCAU, which adds to the fictional universes being real in the DCAU's multiverse theory, but then that means the DCAU is a fictional universe within one of its own fictional universes, and look, DCAU, Clark Kent is Clark of Lewis and Clark in Hysteria. So you may ask yourself, how can any of these alternate Earths besides Justice Lords branch out from the DCAU when the DCAU is clearly Earth 12 on the Print World DC Multiverse map? Well, to that I say, the DCAU isn't actually Earth 12. But that's a topic for another time. You know, in the comics, the extremists are from Angor, which is kind of like a parallel world, I think. I'll be honest, I only wanted to bring that up so I could do this.
I'll be Tracer. I'm already Tracer.
And another thing, the universes we've included in this video are because they, one way or another, quote-unquote, touched the DCAU, meaning they were presented to us as alternate universes within the shows, or were at one time linked to the animated universe and intended to be a proper part of it. But that's why we chose not to include titles like Brainiac Attacks, or Gods and Monsters, or a number of other ones you're probably going to want to make a comment about when this thing is over, and you know what? That's totally fine. Do it. Tell us we missed one of those kind of things. I dare ya. I double dog dare ya. I bet you don't have the guts to increase our algorithmic likelihood of being suggested to other YouTube viewers. Just try and like this video. You couldn't subscribe to the channel if you tried. Thanks for watching though, like seriously. We can't do this without you. If you'd like to support us even largerly, you can head over to our Patreon linked in the description below. There you'll find all sorts of coolio rewards for your graciousness. And sorry, no, I don't mean the reward will actually be the man Coolio, even though he did voice a Static Shock villain. So I guess this semblance of a joke is tangentially related. Goodbye.
You haven't even touched the Little Romeo universe.
I said goodbye.